And so if you can pull up number 3. And this is a little harder. The homeowners are always a little bit harder to read, just how they print them out. They just always are. But again, I wanted to bring you real policies rather than type it up in a way that would not be real. Now this is a policy that also carries an umbrella policy, and this is this has a personal liability limit of $500,000. And then we see med payments here for $1,000, and I want to explain what those are to you. And when would your homeowners come into play? Homeowners comes into play in a number of different ways, actually. Most often people think of an accident or something that would occur inside your home, on your property in some way, maybe on your sidewalk. And this is what protects you. And then the next level of coverage after that would be if you bought an umbrella policy. But what's the $1,000? Medical payment. What that means is if somebody fell down your steps, if somebody slipped and fell on your sidewalk, and they went to the emergency room and didn't have insurance, or in today's world, went to the emergency room, had insurance, but has a deductible of some amount, so therefore nothing actually got paid, they would be looking to you, potentially, for that coverage. Now this is $1,000 that goes for medical payment to somebody else, and it doesn't have to be fault. Okay, so a lot of times they can make this payment and they will sort of quell the situation down by making sure that the medical bill is paid. But that's the limit, is $1,000 on this particular policy, and which is very standard. It's usually $1,000 and sometimes up to a $5,000 coverage for medical payment. Which again is good because if you own your home, you own a piece of property, something happens. If something happens and somebody goes to the emergency room, it's nice to be able to quell the situation down by getting the medical bill paid. Any questions on the homeowners? Some things that people may not know that sometimes and many times homeowners coverage does cover. Let's say you had a bicycle, you left it outside, the bicycle got stolen. Many times the homeowners would cover that. If you had a coat that you wore out to a restaurant and it got stolen, many times the homeowners will cover that.
Edie, my cousin just told me a situation that I never thought about. They have an RV. They were in Florida. Her $500 bike was chained to the back. The chain was cut. They left her husband's junkie bike there, and they took her $500 bike. I was astonished that her insurance immediately paid her the money while she was still in Florida.
Yep, they will. That's right. And something gets stolen out of the trunk of your car, off of your car, the insurance covers those things. Yep.
I never even thought about that.
Yes. So that's again, a lot of people don't even think to ask that may be covered, but it is. So it's another added advantage that you have of your policy, and not everybody takes advantage of it, but it's good to know it's there.
Wouldn't that have to be under a deductible?
It depends. It depends. It depends on what you would have or what you may not have as a deductible. It can. Not always. Yes.
Will it also pay for like water damage?
Yes. Now.
But not flood, but water.
Yes and no. Now there's some very in a lot of the neighborhoods here, and a lot of people have septic tanks, or as we know, I know at least in my neighborhood, Aqua's out there redoing the water pipes, and there's sewer issues in the older neighborhoods where the sewers are getting older. Some policies do cover it, but most of the policies require what we call a separate endorsement to cover that, to cover any kind of a sewer backup or certain kinds of water damage. Now, maybe leaking water is one thing. That's one thing, and that normally is covered under the homeowners, yes. Now, but you can buy insurance to cover sewer backup and sewer break, and again, it's usually very inexpensive, and those people who live in the neighborhoods where they know that these things happen, it's probably a good idea to get it. So, because we all know that there are certain neighborhoods that are a little more prone to these kinds of problems. So, and if you have a suspicion that maybe you're in that neighborhood, you might want to look into that, and it's a separate, it's what they call an endorsement. It's a separate part of the policy that you buy.
Well, it's also there's a limitation
There are separate policies, and
Inside your door, is you're covered by your homeowner. Outside your door, probably not.
yes, and that's one thing that you need to look at, because again, you can buy insurance through, a lot of times through the utilities, to get other kinds of coverage as well. So that is, and you want to really understand from your own policy where they are rolling the line, so to speak. But again, many times the immediate problem that you want solved is when that is inside your house. So, and that's why that is one endorsement that if you have a chance to talk to your agent, you might want to ask if you're in one of those neighborhoods that tends to have those kinds of problems.
The
Yes.
Aqua actually sells a policy, and in my neighborhood, we were noticing that a lot of lawns were being dug up for the water. You're responsible for the water pipe from your house to the curb, and as they were being dug up, my husband decided now's the time. Aqua offers this policy. We signed up, and don't you know, the next year we had them digging up our front lawn too. So yeah, it depends on the age of your home.
It does, and the age of their pipes.
What's happening in your neighborhood.
Right, and every neighborhood's a little bit different. Certain neighborhoods tend to have, just because of the age of the pipes, the type of soil, the amount of movement, all these kinds of factors come into play, and some neighborhoods just tend to have more problems than others. It's good to know what's happening in your neighborhood. Yes?
Yes, does the umbrella policy help to cover some of auto and the house that is not covered by specified?
It is, as far as a claim made against you, yes. Not for your own claim, but for a claim being made against you, yes. And that's really the purpose of the umbrella policy, really is to protect your own assets. Protect you from a judgment, to protect you from, the God forbid circumstance that most people don't have to deal with. But like I said, when you need it, you really need it. And I have seen, situations, and I represent individuals, and I have for years, and I've represented a number of individuals who got that notice from their insurer saying, you better get your own lawyer because you don't have sufficient coverage.
So the amount would increase, where there says 500,000, it would increase because of the amount.
That's right. That's exactly right. And then, let me tell you, there's nothing worse than when someone gets that letter in the mail from their own insurance company saying, what we sold you wasn't good enough. You better hire your own lawyer. And they send those out, believe me.
Do they, the insurance companies, sell the umbrella policies as well?
They do. They do. Most of them do. Sometimes they'll recommend you go to a different company, or they have an affiliated company that they sell the umbrella through, but yes. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a, in your estimation now, are all car insurance companies the same? Is one easier to work with than another? Or
Let's take a pause for a moment.
Yeah.